am now pleased to be able to introduce and bring up our panel. And so I'm excited to hear from this group about the learnings and experiences they've had in their projects. It is my honor to introduce a fabulous colleague and dare say friend, Shavonda Weber-Christmas, who is from LA Cares, and she is an incredible arts and health funder who will be moderating our first panel. Shavonda has lived and professional experience in public health, in mental health, education, healthcare, and social service sectors, as well as philanthropy. She resolves these issues by brokering partnerships between communities and institutions and using resources to support our nation's most vulnerable individuals. She'll be connecting us with three amazing leaders, Mack, Denise, Grande, and Heidi Duckler, on the arts and health initiatives they are all leading. So please join me in welcoming to the stage now, Shavonda.
I was birthed from water into music, an organ, a voice. The breath of life filled my lungs, and I stretched into the atmosphere. It is my expression of gratitude that preserves me. I stand on the shoulders of teachers and nurses destined to care, to share, the extension of a limb, to uplift, to exhort, the one in whom I have my being. Understanding the essence of who I am in all my blackness and love, the joy that showers and peace embodying power that embraces and transforms and searches the spaces that conjoins, the healing drops of belonging in community, in the beloved, in the creative. There, I am whole. Good morning. I am Shavonda Weber-Christmas. And I enter these courts with a thankful heart for the distinct privilege to moderate this panel. As a healer of the spirit, artist for the soul, and investor in our collective well-being. I am the Director of Community Benefits at LA Care Health Plan. My story is that I was born into a musical world, one full of music and dance and movement. And then I pursued public health. The very first thing that I knew was healthcare, first profession. And I find myself today as a funder in a very broad space of healthcare, funding social determinants of health, funding arts and other types of life-giving initiatives. So today with me, I am joined by three brilliant arts leaders, here to highlight some of the diverse ways that arts and artists are centering healing, and various sectors are integrating arts to bring wellness to their teams, to their clients, and themselves. So please join me in welcoming these three wonderful artists, creators, and administrators. Heidi Duckler, founder and artistic director at Heidi Duckler Dance. Her style is known for place-based or site-based performances in an ephemeral style. Next, we have Denise Grande from the LA County Department of Arts and Culture, which you just heard about, the director of their arts education program and specializing in arts-based healing approaches to create systems change. And Mack, executive director for LA Commons, specializing in cross-sector arts installations as well as communal reflection in particularly communities of color. So I am going to turn this over to you all and give you an opportunity to introduce the work that you all do. So we'll go ahead and start with Karen.
I'm Mack, and about 20 years ago, I founded an organization called LA Commons. And this was based on my experience as an Angelino of really being in love with my city, but recognizing the challenge of connection in Los Angeles, given how big we are, given how diverse we are. So LA Commons is really about leveraging the power of art and culture to empower communities to advance their well-being, largely with this focus on enhancing belonging. One of our most exciting projects that we're working on right now is the Fremont Healthy Culture Hub. For many years, we have been part of an initiative in South LA called Building Healthy Communities. And that is a collective impact project that includes organizations working on the social determinants of health, environmental justice, housing, school climate, health services, and then us as an arts organization. And that really has provided the foundation for our work at Fremont High School, which is an amazing site located in one of the neighborhoods that routinely comes out on the bottom in terms of health outcome measures. But they have this beautiful wellness center and garden, which when we first went there was screaming out for us to add art and culture as a complement to the health services. We are partnered there with community health councils, community coalition, and the LA County Department of Art and Culture, among others, with sponsorship from the NEA to bring art and culture to that site. And as I said, what we're really focused on, first and foremost, is to increase belonging. As we know, belonging provides such impact on our sense of well-being, but also, really thinking about the alignment between the wellness services and the local population. And then finally, engaging the community in taking charge of their own health. So having them involved in planning, implementation, and even health advocacy in the long term. A key aspect of what we've done to initiate this project is really to engage the community. That is where we start with all of our projects. What culture is meaningful to you? How do you engage with cultural activities to advance your well-being? And so you can see all the different kinds of activities. And in addition, really thinking about healing as an important part of that. And we have coming very soon artists in residence. So we're going to have cooking, gardening, and healing herbs as one set of programs, yoga, and then the dynamic contratiempo is going to be doing dance workshops. So, this is an exciting initiative to bridge the community with these amazing services and, again, complement what's happening there already. I'll just finish with, we have young people who have been over several years animating the site with this beautiful art. I want to underscore the important role of young people in everything that we're talking about. They are the key to bringing the community together and, in so doing, promoting wellness there. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
The work that you're doing is bringing forward something that lots of people may have desired, didn't know how to bring it, and it's wonderful to see how far you've come and all the things that you're doing to improve the communities there and other places we'll hear about later. Heidi, would you like to go ahead and share your slides?
Sure. Let's start with, I think I have a video here. So our company has been pioneering creating place-based, site-specific performances in communities and locations across Southern California for 37 years. And site work is more than geographical because it includes community. And this is just a taste of what we do, but it's the where we are that's so important and the who we are. And everything we do is created on site. So we mine the content of where we are and who we are in the creation process. Because I'm really here to talk about our residency at Martin Luther King Community Junior Hospital. And it's in Willowbrook. And you might think, well, why the heck Willowbrook? Willowbrook is an unincorporated area of Los Angeles. It's between Watts and Compton. There wasn't a lot there until there was a $500 million investment in the hospital. And the hospital became the anchor and really put a place on the map. And health for us is all about place. It's where we are and who we are. And all the things started to grow in that community. The Charles Drew University, King Drew High School, Metro, the new mental health facility, foster care, a gateway for seniors, which was affordable housing. The new library came about. And all of this started to come together and bring people together, and place started to represent them, because it's a physical environment and public health are completely connected. And so these are some of the workshops and performances that we started to implement. Health is not about taking medication or going to the gym, but it's about how people use space. And place is really critical to our well-being. And our strongest ally is our body, because that's what we're all born with a body, you know? That's the one thing we all share, we have in common. And we have it throughout our whole life. So this is one of the things that they asked us to help them with at the hospital. So anyway, we danced throughout the hospital, and we did a short PSA, and we took it around the community to help promote how important it was to have a vaccine. And those are the kinds of connections that we made. So finally, this is our most current program at the hospital, which is a Dr. Carrie English Creative Fellowship, which is about foster care, and it's a mentoring program, one-on-one mentorship. It's one of many programs that we are continuing our 5th year there at the hospital. I'm hoping to build joy and hope, and most importantly, a profound sense of dignity and beauty that lies inherent right there in Willowbrook, because it's a very amazing, generous, compassionate place.
It's a beautiful program. And last but not least, Denise.
So I learned a long time ago never to follow the art makers and the actual seeing of the artworks. My name is Denise Grande. I'm the Director of Arts Education at the LA County Department of Arts and Culture. And in that role, I oversee what Kristen was talking about before, that's called the Arts Ed Collective. It's a regional collective impact initiative launched by the Board of Supervisors now 20 years ago to change the social conditions in our region so that all young people grow up with the arts. So I was going to start with an image of Richard Henry Dana Middle School in San Pedro. It was founded in 1928. And the reason I was going to share that with you is that's the school where my father went to school, I went to school, and 2 years ago, my youngest child graduated from middle school. And I bring this forward because I was a troubled teenager. At that point, the arts, and for me that was dance, allowed me to express myself and grapple with what I was going through in a way that words could not. And it was really from that experience in middle school that I've spent my career, now over 30 years, in arts education, always motivated from the place of being very grateful what the arts were able to provide me, those supports, and wanting to do whatever I could in this space to make sure that all children have the opportunities to have that safety net as they go through whatever their challenges are. The work that we've been working in over the last 2 years is called Creative Wellbeing. And it's an approach that takes what artists do, teaching artists do intuitively, and matches that with mental health clinicians so that the theoretical underpinnings of mental health and therapeutic approaches blend. What we've had mental health practitioners tell us, we recognize that teaching artists operate from this very intuitive place, and we can name the mental health supports that is actually providing. So to name some of them, the arts are allowing young people to discover who they are, to bond and connect and build relationships with others, and to develop a sense of resiliency that really supports them through periods of trauma. And when I am referring to the arts, I'm referring to dance, music, theater, visual arts, media arts, and literary arts, and other cultural practices, so taking a very broad swath of the work. In our work at the county, we're particularly interested in focusing on those communities who have historically been underserved. And for us, that means working with other county departments to support those who are impacted by the child welfare system and the juvenile justice system. Because we know that for young people who are coming in contact with these systems, they wouldn't be in contact with those systems if they hadn't experienced some trauma in their lives, and oftentimes it's multiple traumas. And we also recognize that some of the government systems designed to support them and care for them too often also provide further trauma and perpetuate even more ongoing challenges. So this work is focused specifically on youth in the foster care system and on youth that have been touched by the justice system. It's an approach that was started 2 years ago now. It came together as a partnership with teaching artists from the Arts and Healing and Justice Network, the LA County Office of Child Prevention, the Department of Mental Health, and the Department of Arts and Culture. And it was really the Office of Child Prevention who came to us at the Arts and said, we see what you're doing with incarcerated young people, and we think that this work could have strong resonance if we work further upstream in prevention, because we know that one of the highest indicators for being impacted by the justice system is being in the foster care system. So what can we do for foster youth to support their resiliency and their social emotional development that allows them to transition through periods of trauma and stay out of the justice system? So that's how the work emerged. We are working with schools in 3 districts across the county, Pomona, Pasadena, and Whittier City, and specifically in schools with high numbers of foster youth and justice-impacted youth. And we're working with youth in residential care facilities who are waiting placements into in-home foster care. And then just finally, I'll end with, we approach this work as a systems change initiative. So we're trying to think beyond, while it is about touching the youth and supporting the youth, we're trying to think about how we scale this in a region as large as the county. And so we know that the only way that we can reach every young person is to impact or affect the adults who are caring for them. So for us, that means the staff at these residential care facilities. It means the Department of mental health clinicians. It means school counselors and psychologists. It means classroom teachers. And it also means teaching artists and arts organizations who are working with these young people to make sure that they have the tools to really provide healing-centered arts education. I'll just end with, the work started, it was scheduled to launch in March 2020. So it quickly pivoted from being all in-person to a virtual platform, and just in this last few months, it's actually started transitioning into a hybrid implementation model. But what we didn't expect that has been a huge benefit is the accessibility of the virtual format, which has not only been extremely cost-effective in being able to bring people together beyond geography, but it has lifted up the important need for continued online virtual engagement because we're looking to serve and support foster youth. By definition, that means that often moving a lot, moving from place to place, moving from school to school. And even when we're serving them in the residential care facilities, they may be there for 3 days or 12 weeks while they're awaiting placement. And so we want to be sure that as we're bringing them in and engaging them in healing-based arts practices, that if that's something that starts to resonate with them, that when they move to the next place, they still have a way to connect in. So the virtual space we imagine as being not only a place for ongoing youth engagement, but also to cultivate, jargon, a community of practice. So allowing the adults who work with young people to continue to come together to learn more about how to use these practices with young people, because it will impact their relationships with those young people, but then also how to use creative well-being approaches for their own wellness, for their own self-care, because we know that if they're tending to their own emotional resiliency, that they are going to be better able to support the youth in their care.
Wow. Thank you, Denise. It's so important, the space that you're in, and making sure there's that continuity between place to place, right, from site to site, but also that it lives on beyond the children that are there. Thank you. So I want to ask you all to reflect on a few questions. and just kind of give your organization's perspective on it. And you all have a little different organizational purpose and implementation style, right? And even the audience that you work with. Just to hear a little bit from each of you, quick, short, in terms of what bringing an equity lens means for your particular practice and how that influences and propels the work of the projects that you're working on. So we'll start with Heidi, actually.
Okay, well, I love that question so much because I think it's really key. It's so important to public health and to well-being. The equity lens is just a major thing. And, you know, as I said, that it's really important, the environment and our bodies, ourselves. I think that's a book from the 70s, no? Well, it's still very relevant. And, you know, it really is key who we are and where we are in space and time. And, you know, and that reaches out to all of us. And we shouldn't have to go other places for services. They should be right where we live and work and exist. And I think that equity lens is really important in that regard, that, you know, that we're all treated with equity in that space.
Yes. Thank you. Denise.
So I think it's very straightforward from our perspective in that equity means that those who have the greatest needs have the greatest access to those resources. So that is why we are centering foster youth and children in the child welfare system for this work, realizing that they are encountering traumatic situations more than most of us and more than anyone should.
So equity is pretty integral to our organization. We were really founded based on this idea of lifting community voices in order to create a more inclusive narrative for Los Angeles. And so every project that we do is really done in partnership with communities. So, you know, for example, the Healthy Culture Hub that I talked about, community members, you know, as I said, were surveyed, but also they're part of the team, actually getting paid to be part of the development process and really thinking about what is going to work most effectively for their community. And we can't see that being done any other way if we're going to get to equity. I feel like, you know, the most important practice when you think about equity is listening. Deep listening in community, and so that is where we start every project.
That's wonderful. And you mentioned also that you're paying folks to come out and participate in these things, and that is very essential for anything to be equitable, because if you cannot contribute financially to the well-being of those individuals, it's very difficult to just ask for volunteers. Over and over, even with the greatest desire, makes it difficult. So let's talk a little bit about the health connection. The World Health Organization has defined health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So each of your organizations affect health in one way or another. You kind of mentioned, Karen, also hearing from the community. How does hearing from and reflecting the sentiments and hopes of the community members where you work elevate the project's artistic expression and impact community well-being?
The idea of having our work be of, by, and for the community, I mean, that is critical because, you know, in all the years that I've been working in the community knows what it needs. Like, you know, so often service providers may come in and have a set way of providing whatever it is that they're providing, but the community really does know what it needs. So to connect and to be clear about that and hear from the community is really the way to advance any kind of health agenda. And so, you know, we, again, survey, listen, and then develop our programs hand in hand with the community to respond to those needs.
And Denise, I know your project takes a little different perspective on this as a systems change effort, but tell us about how that works with you all.
I've been in the field of arts education a long time, And most of that time, it's felt as though the arts community has been making efforts to step into the education space or to step into the health space, but often seen as an outsider. This arena of our work really came from others knocking on our door, starting with those in the county who were looking to start the Office of Youth Diversion and Development. They had done a series of focus groups across the county with young people who were in the juvenile justice system and asked them outright, we're looking to think about this work differently. What do you think would have changed your trajectory? What is it that you think might have kept you from going down this path? And they came knocking on our door because over and over and over, they heard these young people say, you know, I hear about kids in other communities, and they have a band in their school, or they have dance classes near them. And if I had had that access, I probably wouldn't have gone down this road. And so they were knocking on our door to help us partner with them. The same was true of the Office of Child Prevention, as I mentioned before. They saw the work that we were doing and said, hey, this could be particularly valuable for foster youth. And then the Department of Mental Health, once we engage their clinicians in this work, the leadership there is now recognizing that particularly during COVID, their mental health clinicians have been as challenged as many other health workers. And they recognize that the value not only for the clinicians, as I mentioned before, to help with the vicarious trauma they're experiencing or just the huge stress during these times for their own work and self, but the leadership is recognizing it as a workforce retention strategy at this moment in time when so many medical professionals are leaving the health field. And then the final thing is just in terms of engaging our participants in the work. It should go without saying, but I will name it, that we do engage and involve young people in the design of the curriculum and the development of the work so that it is not outsiders coming in. It is really created and developed in a way that resonates most for them.
Very powerful, both restorative for those who have been impacted and an ounce of a prevention to prevent children from going down those roads and paths. Heidi, can you talk about how it affects the input from the environment and community affects your dance?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we are responders. So we do respond and listen to what the community needs. And we do all kinds of work with the community. We do things called acts of noticing, where, we're very particular about how we notice what's around us and how we can engage that. And we sort of have workshops and those kinds of things, so deepening awareness. And, so many times I've heard, oh, I can't dance. People say that, and I go, what are you talking about? Everyone can dance. There's no such thing. Because you have a body, you can express yourself, and that's what dancing is. When you cross your arms and you go, that's expressing yourself, and that's dancing. That's what dance is. And when you lift up your chest in joy, that's dancing too. So there's all these forms of expression, and we teach that. And people, it helps people to understand that they are embodied to dance, that they have the ability, that it's right there inherent within them and their communities, and it gives them it invites them to feel hopeful and be treated with dignity, and that's just such an important road to health, to public health, is dignity, I think.
So you can all take a deep breath and say, I can dance. Yes. Thank you, Heidi. Yeah. This might be our last question, but we'll talk to the audience a little bit about how working on these projects actually has changed you, and how your artistic practice has grown and your understanding of the role of arts and artist, culture, and the role of health.
I don't know that it's changed me, but it deepens us to be in communities where we can connect and work on our feelings of empathy and that empathetic connections are so important. And the more we do that, the more we feel the better we are in the world. We're better for ourselves. We're better for the world. We're just stronger and more sustainable. We continue to have more ideas. Life is a lifetime learning, and learning is about feeling, I think. So, I just think that the more we just need to be out there in the world and continue our paths towards connection and embracing each other and feeling that. We're just always learning more about who we are and who everyone, I don't know how else to say it really, but I learn every day. What Kristen just taught me this new word. What is that word, pucha?
Pucha in the presentations that you
It's a word for a PowerPoint, and it's a silly word, but now I know it, or just learning it. So pucha ketcha, and every day if we can just learn something new and feel it and embrace it, I think that's the key.
Yes. Any other reflections on that one?
So when I was first envisioning LA Commons so many years ago, 20 plus, I didn't really think about the role of young people in the project. It was really just thinking about how to bring Los Angeles together. And our community arts program director, Beth Peterson, really brought that layer in. And over the years, I have become struck by, most recently in particular, of the role of young people as incredible community leaders, imaginers, to take us into the future. Their energy is unmatched, and their ability to bring other community members into the process is extremely powerful. So, and I think when I started LA Commons, I don't even think I wanted to be a mom, and now I'm like the Uber mom, just the power of young people. And I just want to encourage all of us to think about how we can involve them in everything we're doing, because they are, the key to our future. And I say that without irony.
Denise?
So I'll just speak to the part of the question that has to do with my evolving understanding of the role of the arts in this work. And I'm actually going to use a quote from a panelist I saw about 4 or 5 years ago. He's an executive director of a nonprofit organization that serves as a reentry home for men who were sentenced in the 90s to life in prison as teenagers, and who in the last several years have been released with all of the justice reform that's been happening in our state over the years. And at the end of the panel, and it was not an arts panel, it was not an arts conference, it was a justice reform conference. At the end of the panel, his last comments were, we can't underestimate the role of the arts in this work. So I perk up, sit up tall, look around, there's no other arts people that I recognize in the audience. He says, for these people that we're supporting to make the transition that we hope they'll make, they have to have hope. In order to have hope, they have to be in touch with their own sense of humanity. And what better way than through the arts to put them in touch with their own sense of humanity? That was many years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and it's blazoned on my brain. And I repeat it often because it's been so powerful in how I move forward in this work.
Awesome. Thank you. Absolutely, and I know there's so much more that we could say about how arts have impacted health and can impact health. It's an amazing tool and very much so underutilized. But I want to thank each of you for the work that you have set in motion. 20 years worth of work. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Denise, Heidi, Karen, congratulations to you for what you've done. And I say thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So I just want to close this session just by saying there is so much more that could be shared, and there's so much work still to do. And those of you who are here with us today, I appreciate that you have come with that expectation that you can also be part of this, whether you're in the arts sector, whether you are in a healthcare sector, or somewhere in between there, or outside of there. Please consider how you can continue and start even new works of art within the spaces and places that you live, work, and breathe. Thank you.